Howdy, y'all. You're listening to the Point of View podcast, an in-depth look behind the minds of creators on social media, with your host, Travis Fuentes. And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Point of View podcast. We're actually doing this on video now. So, I have a very special guest. He comes from Nashville, Tennessee, is working with the Raised Rowdy crew up in Nashville. Really creative guy, doing a lot of promoting and working with tons of artists, from small artists to big artists, you name it. Mr. Ike Everard. Everard, yeah. That's how you say it, right?
Yep, Everard.
Everard. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Dude, I'm pretty good, man. I'm a little sad that I missed you the last time I was in Nashville.
I know.
But, I mean, yeah, it's all good.
It was close. I was exhausted after Floribama.
Oh, man. How was that, by the way?
It was so much fun. I mean, that bar, if you haven't been down there, is sick.
Dude, I've never been to the Southeast.
It's really cool. It's right on the border, obviously, of Alabama and Florida, right on the beach, and they got, crazy frozen drinks, and you can walk out to the beach with your drink and then come back, and they got 3 stages down there. It's wild. Dude,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've never been out to the southeastern states. I mean, the furthest east that I've ever been to, like on a run or something, is like Louisiana or something, like Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
yeah.
Pretty
If you ever
cool,
get the chance to get out there, definitely
we're gonna try. I heard like it was like the go-to place like in spring or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like spring break.
Spring, and it was fun because we had a bunch of artists down there from Raised Rowdy, like that Nick and Matt booked, and they have a band house down there. Mm-hmm. So everybody was staying at the band house except for us. We were in a condo, but like we'd pop over there.
Funny.
We'd pop over there, and it's just like everybody's crashed on the bunks and the couches, and it was wild.
Dude, that's so freaking hilarious. Before we get into the Raised Rowdy stuff, let's get to know you a little bit. So I know you're not. I mean, nobody from Nashville is from Nashville. If we're being
no,
honest.
Right? It's rare. Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you actually from?
I'm from Seattle originally.
Dude.
Yeah, grew up in Seattle, and then I went to school at Arizona State, so I spent a lot of time out in Tempe too.
Nice, cool. What'd you do in Arizona?
In Arizona, I was studying sports journalism, so I went out there with the intention to be like a play-by-play announcer, but I realized that's not what I wanted to do. Just so, like, my roommate he's a AA announcer right now. He's working his way up the ranks, and like I would see him and the amount of prep he would do, and like, working for 12 hours in his room for one call. I was like, dude, I can't. Like, I don't have that in me to learn about these random, athletes for 12 hours before I go call the game. So I kind of pivoted into video work, and I took a class where I was filming football games and, doing like some longer form storytelling. And I really enjoyed the cinematic aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of caught my attention that I could do a lot more with a camera than even what they were teaching us in journalism school, mm-hmm. and really have a chance to be creative with it.
So it was sports journalism. What came first of your interest? Was it like the journalism side or just like, sports in general?
I think sports, because, play-by-play is not necessarily journalism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it is, but
it kind of sort of is.
A little bit, but I definitely wanted to be, when I was in high school, I wanted to be involved with sports, and I knew that, so that's why I chose Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that the hours of working in sports are brutal. The pay is not very good. And like, they schedule games on holidays on purpose. So you're working on holidays.
Mm-hmm.
My fiance worked for NASCAR for a year after college, and she liked it. That was like her goal, but just the hours were insane. And,
mm-hmm.
Just everything that comes with it is so much, like, you have to really, really commit to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like anything else, really, but like, it's just, it's
that,
anything else in the it's anything else in the entertainment industry,
For sure. But what I've at least found with music is like, you can have a little more of a life than with sports. Because especially out in Nashville, I don't know how it is in Texas, but people really take off for the holidays, and like, mm-hmm. it's kind of understood that you're going to be out of town for Christmas, for Thanksgiving. And for the most part, artists are supportive of that. Nick and Matt are supportive of that. So it's like, mm-hmm. people have a little bit more of a perspective on what's important, I feel like.
Yeah, interesting. So growing up in Seattle, did you play any sports in high school? Or
yeah, I played baseball in high school.
Okay, so you wanted to be like a baseball announcer. or
Yeah,
play by
baseball
play?
announcer. Yeah, yeah. I commentated basketball games in high school because I was playing baseball, so I couldn't call them. But I definitely like that was my favorite sport to cover. I think if I went back and did it again, I would probably practice a little more and try to like play like D3 or something. But
Hmm.
it never happened.
So out of all like the campuses and like all the colleges, why ASU? Why not like something like, I don't know, what's a pretty like known college for sports?
So ASU is actually up there. So it's like Northwestern, Syracuse, Missouri,
Hmm.
ASU are like kind of the top journalism programs in the country. Um, and then ASU just has a really, really good sports journalism program because they really focus on that. And you got 5 pro teams out there. You have all the ASU college teams, obviously. You got spring training out there. So we had really cool programs where you get to go work with MLB teams and cover them during spring training.
Hmm.
And I looked at Syracuse. I visited there, and it just, I don't know, like ASU just seemed way more dynamic. And I'm very glad that I went there because Syracuse, you get really pigeonholed into a path, I think.
Hmm.
But ASU gave me the opportunity to really explore, the other avenues, which
Yeah.
obviously led to what I'm doing now.
That's kind of fun that you say ASU because I went to ASU, but not Arizona. I went to the ASU in Texas, which is Angelo State University.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I kind of funny because like I have an ASU windbreaker that I wear. It has like
Oh,
the big
nice.
old ASU on it. And I remember one time this guy I met, he was like, "Oh, you went to Arizona?" I was like, "No, no, no. I went to San Angelo in."
It's like, yeah, it's like out here, if you say ASU, people think App State.
That's kind of funny, man. But that's pretty cool. So you were saying that you went to school in ASU and then you started sports journalism. How did that spark your interest into like doing stuff with like filming and cameras? Like when did you pick up a camera for the first time?
I think it must have been freshman year of college.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess I'd played around with cameras in high school too, but freshman year of college, it was like a sports videography class. So we were using like the news broadcast cameras, which are not, the same as like a cinema camera or anything,
Yeah.
but but it was still fun because, it's got like a good zoom on there and you can pull
Hmm.
focus and whatever. And so I was, playing around with that at a football game and filming some packages. And I was just like, this is really cool to see how you can tell a story through visuals and like just kind of show things in a different way than people normally do. And news doesn't give you a lot of freedom to do that, but I kind of try to take as many liberties as I could in that program and like make cool, unique looking packages.
Yeah.
And I found out that I really like doing documentary stuff and where you can really be creative with the story and with the visuals.
Interesting. So if you wanted to do like documentary stuff, why not like go to somewhere like Los Angeles or like New York or something?
Well, so I also, at the same time, I had a country music radio show on the campus radio station. So I was hosting that. And I liked country music in high school, but I really fell in love with it through that and during college.
Hmm.
And I
Discovering
realized
new
that,
artists
like,
and everything.
yeah, new artists and, just like the genre and the vibes around it. And then I started listening to some like podcasts, like Ernest podcast and
Hmm.
things like that, where I realized that Nashville like was a really good creative hub. And I also knew that I wanted to kind of like be in control of my own stuff versus like if you go out and do documentaries, you're going to be working on part of a crew and it's fine. Like it's
Yeah.
great. You can do a lot more as a crew than as an individual person. But those are big projects. And so I worked on one that ended up airing on PBS while I was in college and it was a great experience. But I realized that there's so much that goes into it from, getting funding, finding interviews, fact checking, like it's a really cool experience, but it's also like that is your career is you're working on a documentary at a time and you're making an impact, but it's just like different. I wanted something at least, while I'm young, right? I
Hmm.
wanted something more fast paced and kind of more, I guess, more engaging for myself than,
Hmm.
diving into these projects. And I also knew that LA and New York and the scenes out there are a little bit like, at least to me, less collaborative and less fun, right?
I feel like
Versus
it would
coming
be
out to
more
Nashville.
competitive.
More competitive, I think, less kind of conducive to really creating things that you want to create.
Mhm.
Um, And so I knew that coming out to Nashville, I would hopefully, and I have found this, is find a community and find people who kind of want to see everybody grow and succeed and
Yeah.
create.
So why Nashville? Why not why not Texas and Austin? Because there's a couple of people that I've spoken to that say like, oh, Nashville was like the place that they wanted to be, but then they ended up in Texas, like in Fort
Yeah.
Worth or Austin area.
Yeah, I mean the Texas scene is awesome, and I've loved learning more about it. I just didn't know a ton about it at the time, which is
Mhm.
weird because it's closer to Arizona. But
Yeah.
um, I just like I knew that Nashville was, I guess, a traditional hub of like I guess pop country music and trendy
Mhm.
country music. And since I've been out here, I've actually fallen way more in love with the stuff coming out of Texas. But um, but like I just felt like it was it was the scene, right? It was
Yeah.
like, if I'm going to move somewhere, I want to move somewhere where I know there's going to be work and I know I'm going to have the chance to connect with a variety of people.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not just country music out here. And I know Texas isn't just Texas country too, but
Mhm.
like there's so much going on from recording studios to labels to whatever. There's no shortage of work. And it's just a city that's booming so much, which kind of hurts my heart sometimes because it's like I wish I had been here 10 years ago and seen it, in its prime, I guess. But the fact that it is booming means that there's a lot of companies out here, so I can, get some corporate gigs too and
Mhm.
things like that that help pay the bills.
Yeah. How was that scene in Arizona, by the way?
Not musically, there's not really much.
I
I
kind of
have a
figured,
buddy.
man.
I have a buddy now who just switched from journalism to doing photography and doing things like that out in Phoenix, and like from what I've seen, he's been having like a good time doing it, but I don't think it's not like obviously Nashville or Texas or
Yeah.
anything.
I've been to Arizona a couple times, and we did a couple shows out in Mesa at what's it called, Denim and Diamonds or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
It's an interesting venue. It's
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
They got. I mean, it's like a weird mix of theaters out there and then outdoor
Yeah.
shows, but you can't do too many because it's so hot all the time. So it's like I don't know. It's interesting, but it's a good spot for tourists to come through. It's just there's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
much like there's not the infrastructure there to create music necessarily.
yeah. I know in I think Tucson, there's a pretty good theater out there. I was out there checking out the Flatland Cabaret guys. I
Hmm.
was in town and they were like, "Yeah, just come on out. We're in Tucson." And then I didn't realize Tucson was like an hour away.
Yeah, no,
I thought it was all
it's
like close by, but
yeah,
we drove an
Tucson is that one's out more near the border. That one,
yeah.
Tucson, I don't like it because U of A is down there. That's our rival.
Ah.
But, but there's some cool stuff out there. Saguaro National Park's really cool out there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, we were out in Mesa, and then we went to the last time I was there was like in Buckeye, like the outskirts of Phoenix.
Hmm.
There was like this country festival that they were doing like for the first time, and it
Okay. Yeah.
was interesting. I mean, it went as planned, but not as expected. If that
What
makes
does that
sense.
mean?
Well, I'll let you figure that one out. But I mean, it was
Are
all
they
right.
are they bringing the festival back or was it a one and
I think
done?
they're doing it again this year, but they're changing locations because like they
Oh,
they
okay.
did it in like a roping arena. So they had the stage like on the backside where all the chutes are, and it was just super
Yeah.
dusty. My sinuses were acting up like crazy that day.
Jeez.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they're doing
that's
it
kind of
again
tough
somewhere.
sometimes when you get the rodeo involved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was interesting. I mean, I love Arizona. It's such a great time to get away and like lay down a little bit, lay low.
Yeah. Oh, I
Um,
love going out there to visit and there's such a good variety of things to do out there too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I love what is that? There's a hiking trail that we went up to in Arizona, uh, or not. It was Apache Junction, the Superstition
Oh,
Mountains
okay.
and everything.
Mhm. Yeah,
Gorgeous
superstition is
place.
cool. They
Yeah.
say there's gold out there somewhere. You could go find it.
Well, I don't know if you could dig it up, but I mean, if it's there,
Apparently, people have been looking for it for like 60 years. So
no kidding. Well, they
yeah,
have that. What's that? There's that tourist attraction over there. There's
yeah,
like some gold mine or something.
yeah. Like there's the Lost Dutchman out there, and like there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah. I
stuff.
think that's
Yeah.
where we went to go do like a little photo shoot or something one
Oh
time.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, right on the Superstition Mountains. Like you could like see it like
Yo.
perfectly. It was so cool.
Yeah. There's cool landscapes out there.
So when did you move to Nashville? Was it after you graduated?
Yeah, so I graduated in May of 2022, and then I moved out here in September. Um, and yeah, so what it's been now a year and a month or 2 years and a month about.
No kidding.
So yeah, I mean it's flown by really.
Hmm.
Like I realized it was 2 years like last month, and I was like, well, that's crazy. Like I
Dang.
didn't, I didn't realize it was coming up that quick.
Did you know anybody before you moved over there?
Just my roommate that I moved out with from ASU.
So
So
y'all both moved over
we
there
moved
together.
out. Yeah, and it's a buddy who I love. He's great. I didn't know him a ton in college, but my roommate knew him, and so we connected, and we both wanted to move to Nashville, so we did that. And then my fiance moved here about a year ago
How
after she
did you meet
did
your
a year
fiance?
at college also.
Oh, okay. So
But
you guys.
we did distance for a year because went to work for NASCAR, and I came out here, and we were like, whoever likes it more, we'll figure it out.
So
And
she
I
pretty
won.
much still followed, the sports journalism stuff and landed a
Yeah.
gig with NASCAR.
Yeah, which was her dream job. I mean, she grew up a NASCAR fan and everything, and it was just the grind, like that
Hmm.
became her life, and she wanted to have a life outside of work, and it didn't really have an outlet for that. So she didn't know anyone in Charlotte, so she ended up coming here, which I was grateful for.
That's pretty much where all the teams are out of, right? Like somewhere in North Carolina.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I think there's only one that's in Denver, but like everything else is in North Carolina.
That's
Headquarters are out
crazy.
there. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, we still get passes to the races when we want to go because she knows a bunch of people, and she's flying out there next weekend to go freelance with them. But yeah,
I have a buddy. His name is Tyler Lehman. He did stuff for John Party one time. That's how I got in touch with the John Party crew. And then he was leaving, the music scene and landed a gig with NASCAR. And now he's like with, Bubba Wallace and a bunch
yeah,
of those
sick.
other guys.
Yeah,
I think it's like Hendrick or something.
it's cool because like that sport, they're definitely investing more into content.
Hmm.
Like I've met people at the races who do like they're whatever. Maybe it's that, maybe it's him, but like they work for teams and they'll do cool content around the races and behind the scenes. So that's been cool to see. And like that's probably what I would have ended up doing if I moved out to Charlotte if she'd stayed there. But I like this scene a lot more.
Hmm. The content that you see with NASCAR and like, sports in general, that's like, not highlights or game related. It there is a difference that you've been seeing lately. Like people are stepping up, they're connecting more with, just the average viewer,
Yeah,
making them
absolutely.
understand stuff more easily.
Yeah, they're diving into trends. I think they're adapting. They're getting more young people in there and people who understand, what's going to move the needle on social media,
Yeah.
which is important because that sport, I wouldn't say it's dying. People say it's dying, but like they need to adjust and they need to
The
figure
sport
out a
is
way to
aging.
grow. It is aging. They need to figure out a way to de-age themselves.
Yeah, and like polish it
Yeah,
up a little bit.
exactly.
That's so cool. And the thing is, like, learning social media is one of the hardest things that
Hmm.
anybody can do, really. Even as a
For
creative
sure.
ourselves, it's hard to keep up with the trend or, you know, provide the content that people want to see. Because, like, one thing you'll do something, and the next thing you know, like, oh, we're doing this now.
Yep.
So it's so hard to keep up with it. How did you figure out a way how to do that? Because the content that I've seen you put out is pretty interesting because it just works.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just try to make stuff that I think is cool and hope that other people think it's cool, and they don't always, but like sometimes people do think it's cool, and I think it's like my biggest thing with putting out my content is like if I'm telling artists to do this and I'm trying to push artists to invest in themselves and their content, then like I should be doing the same thing.
Hmm.
And as someone who's trying to help them run social media, if I can demonstrate that and also like if I can get my face out there through the same methods, like why wouldn't I do that? And so I think it's just trying to figure out things that I, would either find useful or things that I think are cool and just kind
Hmm.
of diving into those. And it's also good practice because
Yeah.
I don't want to try something out on an artist who's invested their money into my work and then have it fail because I've never done it before. I'd rather try it out on my own platforms and myself and then have the proof of concept and also have the confidence to really go in and do that for them to
Oh
a
yeah.
higher level.
Yeah. 100%. So what came first when you moved to Nashville? Was it the photo side or like the video side?
I think I did more video in college, so I was more comfortable with video, but very quickly I realized that photos are just as in demand. At least 2 years ago they were.
Hmm.
I think it's honestly switched to video. Even with Raised Rowdy, we're launching more into video for rounds. We're trying to do
Yeah.
more things with filming the songs. And even Nikki's like, we don't need as many photos as we did. We want video. Like that's what's valuable to the artist and to us. So I think even since I've been here, it's switched. But when I started with them, it was they wanted photos of every single round of every artist, and they still do, but less so. And I think that people wanted cool headshots to post on Instagram. Now they
Yeah.
want cool reels to post on Instagram.
Yeah. Well,
But
100%.
I learned really quickly that I loved working in Lightroom. First of all, I love taking a picture and just playing with the colors and the light and seeing how cool I can make it look. So that kind of inspired me to do a lot of photos, but also that there's a big market for it, and so being versatile obviously helps with that
Yeah.
and just finding work.
Do you remember what your first gig was whenever you landed in Nashville, or who
Yeah,
it was
well, so
for?
the first round I ever shot, wasn't paid,
So
but
you went straight into Raised Rowdy whenever you landed there.
no. So the first round was called Primetime 615,
Okay.
and it's ran by Erica Primdahl, and she's awesome and great round. I think they do once a month now at Live Oak. Um, but I moved into my apartment in Midtown, and the very first night that I was there, I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go do something. So I walked down to Live Oak, and I asked her, I was like, hey, do you need anybody to shoot? And they didn't have anybody. So she was like, sure. She didn't pay me, but I shot for 12 artists that night. One of them, Kaylee Bishop, I work with a bunch now.
Hmm.
Garrett Schultz, who I've done a couple of videos for, was there. And so I just shot it and sent her the photos. And like that was my first introduction to the scene and to talking to artists and all that. So that was just cool. And then that gave me at least a little portfolio to where when I finally did have lunch with Kurt, who co-hosts the
Yeah.
podcast with Nikki T, um, I was able to show that, and he was like, hey, we need somebody to help us out with social. Do you also want to shoot the rounds? And so that was kind of my first gigs, was doing rounds with them. First paid gigs was with them, and with Garrett too, actually, Garrett Schultz.
Yeah. That's pretty
So
cool.
yeah.
So when you did the round stuff, like, did you ever veer off of that? Like, did you ever do anything like on the touring side of it, or did you mainly just stay based in Nashville?
Mainly staying based in Nashville, because I've always said, like, I think going on the road would be fun, but it would have to make sense. Like, I've been
Yeah.
offered a couple of different touring gigs, but it was never an artist I was either very excited about or a situation that I was excited about, to where, like, I don't want to go out in a Sprinter van and, you know,
Yeah.
sleep on the road, like, and do that. Like, it just doesn't, it's not appealing to me. Like, I will if I need to, if I need the money or whatever. But, or if it's one of, like, my friends who I've worked with a bunch here. That's what I would say. Like, it would have to either be like Morgan Wallen, or it'd have to be like one of my homies who I'm like worked with and kind of grown with,
Hmm.
and it made sense to do it. Then I would do it. But like now, especially out here, like I'm getting married in May, and then I have all this in town work, so it's like I don't want to be away from the city for that much. I like doing the touring. I guess it's not touring, but I like doing the road gigs with Raised Rowdy, where we'll go out to a festival for a weekend, and I think we did like 6 or 7 of them this past year. So that was a good amount of traveling
Hmm.
and seeing some different spots. But yeah, in terms of going out on like a bus or van and going somewhere new every night, I don't know. It doesn't seem that appealing to me unless it was with the perfect crew.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. When it comes to Texas, it's it's hard to find like a centrally located place where you can find like a bunch of creatives or like
Hmm.
artists. I mean, I guess the closest thing, I mean, for the country scene itself would be like Fort Worth, but it's just so Texas is so spread out. Like it's so regionalized, and it's hard to, because there's been times where, so I'm from South Texas. I'm from Del Rio, right on the border. And there's been times when I've had uh, an artist hit me up and say like, "Hey, we're playing in Fort Worth. Like, can you come shoot this?" I'm like, "Dude, Fort Worth is like 7 hours from me." So
Yeah, right.
yeah,
You're like, how am
it's
I
so
going to get there?
yeah, it's gonna take me what you're offering to get there,
Right.
and it's just so regionalized because like you have your like your honky tonk scene, which is like more like Fort Worth based, and then you have like your red dirt stuff, which is like, out in West Texas in Lubbock. And there's like a certain part where it merges into Oklahoma, and you get that, what we call shred dirt. So it's like, a little heavier on the rock side, but like it's still considered, I guess, country with the lyrics. But that's the I guess the only thing that I can say about Texas is that it's so spread out. But in Nashville, everything's like, all in inclusive would be the word. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all contained in this
Yeah,
area.
it's all contained over there.
Which that's, I guess, another reason why I picked Nashville, right? Is because it is contained, and there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of good venues and a lot of good studios, and people can hit me up and be like, "Hey, I'm going into the studio tomorrow. Like, are you free?" I'm like, "Sure." Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easier versus right. If someone's recording in Lubbock or Austin or whatever, like, how are you gonna? Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I tell myself, like, if it's past 3 hours, then like, all right, man, like, I'm sorry, but like I just have to consider the fact that I'm traveling this far. I need to add it into it,
For sure, and that would be like me going to Knoxville. Like, I wouldn't go to Knoxville to go shoot something unless it was, a really cool opportunity or whatever. Like, I wouldn't just go out there to shoot somebody playing a club show, probably, because that's far.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What is it,
Yeah.
like 4 hours or something?
Yeah, 3 hours to Knoxville, I think.
Shoot, that's like from me to Austin, dude. That's not
Yeah,
bad.
right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so different to like be in a place where everything's close, I think.
Yeah. And like that whole tri-state area, like, San Antonio, New Braunfels, San Marcos, Austin, it's all connected together. So like you really can't tell where you're at. And each of those cities have like some sort of unique venue. Like San Antonio has like Floors, and then New Braunfels has like Green Hall, and then next door in San Marcos is like Cheatham Street, and then and so on. It's just so cool. Like sometimes you can route stuff like that with like different artists, but like it kind of like, I guess, it like, what's the word? It really drains you a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, it's a lot of travel. I mean, it's cool because I feel like you probably get to see a lot of different things, and every place has its own character, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, no, I mean I think everyone gets drained in this industry different.
Mhm.
But yeah, when you add that travel in there, that's a difficult thing for sure, I can imagine.
Yeah, dude. It's just so crazy how Texas works compared to Nashville, and like I don't know. I in Nashville I kind of consider that there's more like content makers, and in
There is a
Texas there's
lot.
like content creators, if that makes kind of sense.
Yeah, interesting. How would you define the difference?
Well, like content makers, it would be like everybody's trying to push out, like reels or TikToks, or they're like in the street making like promos and stuff. While like in Texas, it's more like, hey, we're gonna be playing this show, or hey, you wanna do like this music video or something. Like there's not much of a creative aspect whenever it comes to Texas creators versus like in Nashville, everybody's doing something literally anywhere. Like you can find like a field or something and be like, hey, let's do like a video here.
Yeah, I could look out my window right now in the Gulch and like see people on the street probably doing whatever. Like I might see Will Cullen down there doing a guitar video or like whatever.
Yeah. That's kind of what I've been seeing lately, and it's kind of cool because like the opportunity is there. It's just like you could go to literally anywhere in Nashville and just record. While here, like we would have to go like, hey, let's do a murder ballad song out in West Texas and somewhere in the mountains. Well,
Which
West
is
Texas,
cool. I feel like in Texas people are more intentional with the content.
Yeah, that is one thing that's cool because like there's like I said, it's so regionalized that there's different parts where you can get like a different I guess vibe of of the content. Like in West Texas, it's more like desert and there's like mountains and hills, whereas in Houston area, it's more like piney and green and stuff. It's just it's there, but it's like the travel is just so hard, dude.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, Texas is a huge state.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It really is. But I like that idea that like people are more intentional with it and more old school with the content because out here it's all about quantity over quality for the most part. which I'm
Interesting.
not saying that's my philosophy, but like, that's the philosophy that sometimes you have to adopt because artists want to post every day because that's what they see people who blow up doing.
Hmm.
And it's fine, but it's like, it's hard at that point then when you're creating at such a scale to really have intentional, unique content. So I do appreciate artists who let me do that and who are like, I'd rather have 5 really good intentional pieces of content than, 20 filler pieces.
Hmm.
Um, I think that creates better, and probably long term, it'll create a better fan base for those artists who are being more intentional with it.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to make filler content, you're probably going to wind up being filler, filler artist. You don't, and you don't
Yeah.
want that at the end of the day. Like, it's cool for a bit because you might be the next big thing for a month, but I think where we're heading is like people need to figure out how to create lasting connections. And I think the Texas artists do that really well
Hmm. There's a
for
lot
the
of people
most
that
part.
are like, they're out here like gigging hard and like road
Hmm.
dogging and making connections with fans and meeting people. And it's 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 I guess you would say like the more traditional way of making a fan base.
Yep,
But like, social media is blowing up like crazy and TikTok is just a whole different, ballpark. And it's the industry is it's moving into a weird time, really.
for sure. And it's changing a lot, but I think that what's not going away is that if you are on the road a lot and you're really connecting with people, like that's how you build that lasting fan
Hmm.
base. And
I
I,
just had a
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say I know a lot of people out here who are like scared to go on the road and do that because they can in Nashville because they're like, oh, I can blow up from my phone in my apartment. But like that's only a small part of the equation if you want to have lasting success. You do got to be out on the road and you really have to be, you know, living that life, practicing your live show and connecting with people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And then I guess like these rounds that Raised Rowdy and other people are doing really help out, fill in that I guess gap between, the artist and like the actual listener, and
Hmm.
just it finds a little way to like connect them together.
It does. And the rounds are really cool because they're great networking for artists, obviously. Like you're playing with people you may have not played with before and
I mean, hell, that's
people
how we
find
met.
right, yeah, exactly. It's great for content creators. It's artists find rights through it. Industry people come out and they might find someone that they want to look at. And I've found that for me as a creator, like it's important because that's you get FaceTime with so many different artists in one night. You send them your photos, your videos, and I've got a lot of work through rounds. So like I'm very grateful to Raised Rowdy that they obviously brought me into that scene. And I think that the writers rounds is such a cool thing about Nashville. Like, do they have that in Texas really?
Not really, man. Like I said, there's a couple of places where they do, like in Lubbock. There's this place called the Blue Light Live. They do songwriter rounds on Monday. So like they'll have a list of people. It's kind of like an open mic, but it
Yeah.
has to be all originals. And
Right,
then
right.
there's this place in San Marcos at Cheatham Street where they do a round on Wednesdays. It's like normally 6 artists that they do, and just sign up and do that. But like that's not very common out here. The only time that
Right.
you will see a round is like if I don't know, like you're going to a show and there's like 3 acoustic openers. That's
Right,
the
right,
only
right. That's
time you
the
would see a
closest you
round.
get
I
to it.
think the
Yeah.
round is more like a Nashville
It's
kind of thing.
yeah, and like out here, there's like 5 different rounds every night you could go to. So
Literally.
it's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I mean, Live Oak's got rounds every night. Losers, Razor Rowdy's doing them 3 times a week usually. You can go out to like there's so many that I don't even know about. Like I'll see like, Tin Roof has rounds. Everywhere's got rounds, really.
Mhm.
So because there's such a crazy amount of songwriters in this town.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's a lot of songwriters and a lot of artists, and then but like sometimes you don't realize that they're also artists themselves.
Yeah, no, right. And they're all so talented. It blows my mind. Like every time I'm like, wow, like you walk down the street and like if it's not tour season, probably most people you see are like really good singers. It's crazy.
Oh man, when was the last time you went down to Broadway?
It's been a while. I usually only go if people are in town.
Uh-huh.
When I first moved out here, I would go a decent amount just because it was new and whatever.
Yeah,
But
you just wanted to
uh,
like just say you did it.
yeah, but dude, it's exhausting down there. Like, I'll go if people are in town and they're like, "Oh, we have to go to Broadway." Okay, like obviously, then I'll go. But yeah, no, not very often. It's expensive. It's a lot of people, a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
noise. So.
I did
And
that one
now
time.
that oh yeah, I mean now that I'm shooting all these events over at Riley's and at Losers, it's like that's enough.
When I first went to Nashville, I mean, yeah, my friends were like, "Oh, we got to take you to Broadway." I was like, "Do I really want to go to Broadway?" It's like, "Yeah, you're gonna love it." First place we first place we go to Broadway. Oh man, I can't even remember the name of it, but it was right across. It was the stage. We
Mm-hmm.
went to the
Yeah, yeah.
stage. I can't remember who we saw, and then from there we just started, bar hopping and everything, and then it got expensive, man.
Oh, it does.
And then we ended the night at Barstool.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Talk
Yeah,
about
it's a
expensive.
cool place, but like,
Mhm.
dang, when you see three digit numbers on your tab, it's like, all
Yeah,
right, I've had
you're like, was
enough.
it really worth it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then a hot dog is like $8, man.
yeah, right. No, I mean, I like the Euro carts down there. You can get like the Euro meat plates on rice.
Hmm.
Those are good, but
I've never had that,
you should try that next time.
dude. I don't know. And then after like the first time, I was like, all right, we're not gonna do this again. We'll go down there to like
Right.
to see. I had a buddy that was playing at Dirk's place,
Hmm.
the bottom floor. It was like the day before. What is it, Whiskey Jam or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was the day before that, and I saw my first Whiskey Jam, and I met people through there, and then yeah, we just we fell into the rabbit hole, started bar hopping again, and
Yeah, that'll
but it was cool
happen.
because
Yeah.
like I wasn't paying this time.
No, so there you go. Yeah, then that's what you want. That's how you want to do it.
Yeah, you see influencers everywhere, man. Especially like
Mhm.
on a weekday or a weekend. Well, you'll
Yeah, I
see them
mean,
all the
like
time.
that's where Hawk Tuah girl got famous.
Well, there you
Just walking down there, the guys interviewed her, and like,
Oh, that's so funny,
you
man.
never know, your life can change on Broadway. So.
Oh, that is crazy. What a concept, though.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man. So let's get back into like content stuff. So what is I guess an average or a normal content day with you out in Nashville?
Yeah, so usually if I'm shooting with somebody, first thing that we figure out is if they want to rent a studio or if they want to find free spots, because that kind of determines a lot of it. I like renting studios because obviously you can control the light, and I feel like it just looks more pro. Like so many people have. There's cool videos. So many people have videos of them like in a park or whatever,
Hmm.
and you can make it look great. But I think being in a studio, like at least for part of the day, helps a lot
Hmm.
because you can get really cool looking headshots. You can get some good content that shows that you made an investment in it. And I think that the audience does notice that. Like, I think they can tell when you invest in yourself, and that's going to make them more likely to invest in you as an artist. But we'll typically shoot, photos and some reels, and then depending on what they want, sometimes we'll do horizontal video. So a lot of artists don't want any horizontal anymore, which I kind of hate because I love, I think it looks better, and that's just kind of like how I grew up doing stuff was horizontal and
I think that's
longer
how we all
form
did.
content, right? But so it's always nice, it's always refreshing when they're like, "Hey, can we do like a visualizer or a mini music video or whatever and make it horizontal and do something cool with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, we can." But if they're looking for vertical stuff, we'll do photos and then we'll do reels and we'll probably hit a couple different locations. So if we start in the studio, that's always great. But then we'll still go outdoors and find some spots.
Mhm.
There's so many spots around town. It's like I was shooting with this one artist and he was like, let's just go into these hotels downtown and shoot. And I was like, I don't think we can do that. But they didn't bat an eye. And so that's kind of what you were saying about Nashville being like everybody's shooting everywhere because
Yeah,
they literally like didn't care that we were just sitting on their stairs and on their couches and whatever and filming like content
they're like
with
it's
a big tube
Nashville.
light and like stuff. Like it was, it wasn't like a big stuff, but it was a setup. We went on a Monday, so that probably helped. A bunch of people checked out, but yeah, it was crazy. I was like, if you act like you're supposed to be there, then they're not gonna, they're not gonna care. But yeah, I mean, typically we'll wind up with like 20 reels and then some photos,
Dang.
and because it's and that's what I'm saying. Like it's all about scale. So I try to like still, even if we're doing 20 reels, try to make them cool. And like typically they're single shots. So like if we do a full song run through, we can get 3 or 4 out of those. You
Hmm.
can do verse chorus, you can do a chorus, you can do second verse, bridge, whatever. figure out how to cut it up for social media. But yeah, I mean, then it's just trying to find unique spots and things that speak to the artist. And then I always try to make them do some talking videos. And a lot of artists don't want to do it, which is weird to me because they talk on stage, when they're around or whatever. But talking to the camera for people, I think sometimes is scary.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I try to make them do like, hey guys, this is, whoever, my new song's coming out next week. Make sure you stream it, and I'll make them do like, here's a story behind the song. Here's a thank you to everybody involved in the process of making it. So like basic stuff, but things that they don't think of and that they don't necessarily want to do. But then whenever they post it, they're like, oh, I'm glad that we did this because,
Yeah.
It's nice to switch up the content from the music and kind of let people into who someone is as an artist a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And then what do you shoot everything with?
So I shoot on Canon R5C.
Let's go. All right.
Yeah.
Team Canon.
Canon. Absolutely Canon. I love the R5C because you can switch video and photo mode. And it has the separate operating systems in there for it. I have 2 Aperture 300D lights, which are great, especially in the studio. But they're nice because if we're outside and we have power somewhere, they're bright enough to work outside too, even in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I love shooting with reflectors too outside. And yeah, I mean, that's basically the setup. I have some LED light panels that I'll use. Tube lights are great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the Canon gets the job done.
Is that like your only body?
I have a C200 too.
Okay.
So I'll use that. But I don't know. It's older. I don't love the colors on it.
What
but
are
it's
you on,
good,
like C-Log 2 or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, like, compared to the C-Log 3 on the R5C, it's not. To me, at least, it's not at all close quality-wise.
I mean, then again, it's like there's a lot of variables too, like bit rate and like
Sure, yeah. There's a lot, and I think it only has 8 stops of dynamic range versus the R5C. Yeah, so it like I don't know, but it's a good camera. Like I used to use it to film the rounds when we were at Live Oak because it'll run for 250 minutes on a single battery, and like the file sizes are pretty small, so like it's nice in that sense to use it in certain scenarios. But if I have the choice, I'm always using the R5C.
Nice. And then how long, I guess, does a typical content day last for you? Like a session with an artist?
I guess on average it's probably like 2 hours.
Okay.
But it depends, obviously if they're on a time crunch, we'll do like less content, less reels. I can be pretty flexible with it though. I think, and you probably feel the same way. Like it's not like you can kind of get what you can get, right? So
yeah, exactly.
If they want more, I'm going to be like, well, look, we're going to need like 4 hours. If we're going to go to a park and a studio and a old house or whatever, we're probably going to need like 5 or 6. Like it's not, so it kind of depends on what they want. But I would say 2 to 3 hours is average. And, you can get reels and photos out of that.
That's cool. And then I've also been seeing that you've been doing a lot of these 15-minute photo shoots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So explain to me or explain to the viewers like what that's all about.
Yeah, so really what that is it's just a way to let the artists let some of their personality out. And it's also a way, I guess, for me to promote my photos because I was like, and basically those are all part of another shoot, right? So like we'll finish up the shoot and I'll be like, hey, like, have you seen the 15-minute photo shoots and whatever? And then I'll show it to them and I'll be like, we can do something like this right now. You can get some extra photos. I don't charge them for those photos.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just have to film this with me. And they're like, okay. So, we do it. And like, so far no one's been against it.
That's pretty cool. It's a really great way to market yourself too.
Yeah. And so I was like, it can just be like a little collab post and it can be super easy and short and just kind of showing what it's like to be on set. And I've had a lot of people come after I posted those and be like, hey, like how much does this cost? And so I'll charge them if they just want to do 15-minute photo shoot,
Mm-hmm. But
if it's part of a bigger shoot, I'll just do it. And yeah, I've had a lot of people be like, I want to do this. Like,
yeah,
that looks sick. So
it's like, while you're here, let's just do it.
Exactly. And it's fun for me because then it's like, versus thinking about what the artist needs photo wise, it lets me be super creative. And obviously I'm still thinking about what the artist is going to like, but versus thinking about, because we already did all their photos. I'm like, I can actually have fun with these photos and really be creative with them and come up with some cool stuff. And often, those are the ones the artist likes the most too. So
Yeah,
it
that's
was
pretty
always
cool.
good. Yeah.
So with all these artists that you've been working with, you met them through rounds
For the most part. I
for the
mean,
most part.
rounds and then word of mouth. So
Gotcha.
I'll meet them at rounds, or I'll meet, their friends at rounds, and then they'll be like, hey, so and so said that you did a great job with these. Like, I'd love to work with you. And I'm like, okay. So word of mouth, I think at this point it's probably more word of mouth than rounds,
Hmm.
except when new people come to the rounds sometimes. But, like at this point, like it's like people see it on social media or they hear from their friends that it's working, they like working with me or whatever. So then they'll hit me up. So I think word of mouth marketing is such a big thing. And that's
Oh
where it
yeah.
comes down to treating people well and, doing good work no matter who the client is, like treating every job like you're proud of it, even if it's something that you'd like, you don't love how it came out, you got to treat it like you do, right?
Hmm.
And so I think that building up a good reputation is very, very critical.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then I guess meeting people through that and word of mouth. How did you end up meeting Nikki T and all those guys from Raised Rowdy?
Yeah, so when I first moved to town, I was hitting up a ton of photographers and video people and whatever. So I was like grabbing coffee with people all over the place.
The
And
good old coffee. Let's go
yeah,
grab some coffee.
yeah, you got to
That's
do
a
it.
Nashville thing, man. That's literally a Nashville thing. They don't do that here in Texas. Here it's like,
So
let's go grab
weird.
a beer or something.
Yeah, well, fair. Yeah, right. I guess that is a very Nashville thing to go
It is a
grab
very
coffee.
thing, man. I was at one bar one time. I was by myself. I was waiting on friends, and then I just hear like somebody in the back like, "We should really get coffee sometime." I'm like, "That's the most Nashville thing I've ever heard."
Yeah, that's not gonna fly in Texas.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry to
No,
interrupt.
yeah. So I hit up Kurt Ozon, who co-hosts the podcast,
Hmm.
and he's also Luke's utility player.
Yeah.
But I didn't even realize at the time that he played with Luke Combs, and so I just knew he was a great photographer because he does really, really cool photo work and he
Hmm.
shoots a lot of film. And I was like, this is sick. So I hit him up. I was like, want to grab? I think we went to lunch. He's a vegetarian, so we went to some vegan place. And I was like, I didn't think they had this in Nashville, but um, we go there and we were talking about it all. And he was telling me about the podcast and about Raised Rowdy and saying that they needed somebody to help with social clips and help kind of run the social media things. He was like, we're trying to expand into video clips of the podcast and expand this and this. And I was like, okay, like I'm interested. Like, it's not going to pay a lot, but he was like, it's a great, intro to Nashville. It's a great way to meet people. And this was probably a month after I moved to town. And I was like, perfect. I was working at Panera.
That your first
And
job as soon as you got there?
first job in Nashville was I was walking around by my apartment and they were hiring. So I was working the 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. shift at Panera, setting up all the
Dang.
industry items. And the Raised Rowdy didn't replace that, but it was a big step towards
Yeah,
replacing
for
it.
sure.
But Kurt introduced me to Nick, and this was before Matt Brill even had become co-owner of the company.
Hmm.
He was just friends with Nick and whatever, and so it was really Nick and Kurt running the show, and so I was helping them with podcast clips. And then Kurt had been shooting the rounds, and he was like, "Hey, your photos are cool. Do you want to come shoot the rounds?" And I was like, "Sure." So then I started doing that, and then through that, I met artists on the podcast. We had Zach Top come,
Hmm.
we had Ella Langley, we had Colby Acuff. Uh, I'm sure I'm forgetting other people too, and like that was cool
So
because
many more people.
during that time, I was at every episode. Now we have it figured out where I don't need to even be at the episodes, and I can still edit the clips and whatever. But at that point, I was live switching them and whatever, and we'd hang out with the artists after the show. They'd play a song with Kurt. I would film that, and we'd make little acoustic videos. And so it was a great way to meet people and get connected into the scene. And yeah, and it's really all through Kurt. I mean, and all through reaching out to photographers that I thought were cool.
That's so cool. And
Yeah,
like you never know who you're gonna meet in Nashville is one thing that I've learned a lot.
yeah, yeah. You meet crazy people all the time, and like I don't. A lot of times I'll meet somebody and I don't even realize that they do other things that are like there's a lot of artists who do really cool stuff on the side and in music to help their artist career, and I'd have no idea.
Hmm.
Like there's this guy who's an artist who used to shoot photos for Rihanna and fly around on jets, and now
Oh
he runs
wow,
Jake Owen's creative department. And like I didn't know, I just thought he was like an artist, but like he's sick. Like it's crazy.
that's so cool. I remember last time I was there, I was doing stuff with Randall King at the Palace,
Hmm.
and I can't, oh man, what was his name? he was some guy from like Sony Publishing or something.
Oh yeah.
So he was a big what you call what Nashville calls suits.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big guy, and then out of nowhere, I was I was coming from backstage to the the pit area, and this guy stops me and he was like, "Hey, you're doing really good." I was like, "Thanks, man." And I go back over there and I asked him like, "Hey, what's your name?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm Craig Campbell." I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
hey, it's really nice to meet you, man. This is so cool." It's like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's
doing a great
crazy.
job." I was like, "Okay, cool." And
Yeah, you
yeah,
never
that
know.
took me by surprise.
Yeah. No, you literally never know.
And then like even the unexpected people are like some way involved into like the music scene or something.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, especially out here and probably in parts of Texas too. Like yeah.
yeah, I remember we were at this one bar, and then one of my buddies was telling me, he's like, "Dude, do you know who that key player is?" I was like, "No." Like, he plays keys for Alan Jackson. I was like, "Oh, okay. So these are
Yeah,
like
right.
musicians."
Yeah. Or you might be out somewhere and you're sitting next to a studio musician who played on 10 platinum records. Like, and you would never know. And you don't know unless you talk to them because those guys, they just go to the studio
Uh huh.
and they're behind the scenes completely.
Oh, that is freaking
It's
awesome.
crazy. Like, I'll meet people and I'm like, oh, I played on literally like Taylor Swift's Red album. Like, what?
What the heck?
Like, that's crazy.
Oh man, I think I got time for one more question. So for I say this to I ask this for a lot of different creatives, and just different people because they all have a different way to say this. So what is something that you would, I guess, what is something helpful or some advice for younger creatives that are looking to come into the scene or move to Nashville or just get their foot in the door whenever it comes to music wise.
I think when it comes to getting your foot in the door, it's just like don't be afraid to meet people and make connections. And don't be afraid to shoot a bunch of stuff and post. Like what I always say is like social media is fake, which is like a weird thing
Hmm.
to say as somebody who like creates social content. And like but what I mean by it is real things can come from social media and they do come from social media. But like the actual posting and everything is fake. Like you can post the same video 5 times. It doesn't matter. You can post once a week, you can post 4 times a day. Like you can do whatever you want on social media. Like it's people think that they're getting judged by people who they follow or whatever, and maybe they are, but you can't worry about that because at the end of the day, like so many good things can come from social media, but like it's never going to happen unless you try it.
Hmm.
Like you could post the same reel every single day for a week. There's no consequences to that. Like it might look weird and people might be like, what's this guy doing? But like one of those times it might get 1 million views. So, I'm not saying I've done that and like I don't think I would because I still think it'd be weird, but you could. And there's no real consequences to doing that. So I think the biggest thing is like utilizing social media and also just making connections in person. DM people. Don't be afraid to like reach out to whoever you can think of because they may not see it, but if they do, a lot of times, especially in the creative field, people are very willing to talk to you and to help you make connections. If you're willing to reach out to them, they'll be willing to help you. Um, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's just like if you see, whoever Hardy's videographer, if you see Tanner at the bar, like go talk to him. If you see, I don't anybody that you can think of, if you see anybody, go talk to them. Don't be afraid because at least in our field, people are very, very friendly and open, and they appreciate when you take the time to talk to them about their work and talk to them about your goals.
Nice. That's
I think
pretty
that's the
cool.
biggest thing. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, post stuff like right, like it's free to post it. No one's gonna like come and beat your door down because you posted a reel 10 times.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
They might, but and
No,
you
but
might lose followers for that, but you might gain them too. I don't
well,
know.
there you go. And that is 100% true. I mean, I had a friend that was playing around and went to go see them, and I didn't even know what Raised Rowdy was at the time. I didn't even know what anything was. I was just there, to support a friend. And I was like, man, these guys are out here doing stuff. Maybe I should just walk up to them. So it was you and Jarrett,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shout out Jarrett.
Yep.
And
One
I forgot what this other guy's name was, but he was also there too.
Trey
And
Bonner.
yeah, I just talked with Nikki T, and I was like, hey man, like my friend Nando from Flatland told me to come say hi and just talk to you. I was like, oh yeah, we love Nando. And then that's where we started talking, and then that's whenever I was like, hey, what camera are you shooting?
Yep. Yeah,
That's always
right.
like my go-to is like, what camera are you shooting?
Yeah,
Man?
no, literally. That's so easy. If they say Sony, boom.
Nah. But yeah, man, that's so cool, dude. I'm thankful for that time that we met. I mean, look at us, dude. We're helping out each other. You've helped me out with a lot of stuff when it comes to content, and I get inspired by a
Your
lot of
videos
stuff
have
that
been
you put
killing
out
it
there.
too. Yeah,
And
your videos always inspire me whenever I see them.
appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think that's about it, man. Oh, one more question because I have you on here. Nashville hot chicken. Is it worth
Yeah.
the hype?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there, there's good places. It's not worth the hype though. It's just spicy chicken. But there's good places, dude. Like Helen's and Party Foul out here are probably my
Party
two favorite
foul.
ones. Helen's is the best though.
Really?
There's only like two of them I think out here, but one of them's right over by Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best hot chicken I've had because it actually has the spices in the breading and stuff,
Mm-hmm. I tried
But
Prince before.
Prince's is good,
Yeah,
yo.
Prince's is good.
Anything but Hattie B's. But I don't know. I mean, it's good, but like at the end of the day, it's chicken tenders that are like spicy. So
There you go. I don't even like spicy food, anyways.
yeah, yes.
All right, guys. So this has been another episode of the Point of View podcast. If you're liking what you are listening to, go ahead and give us a follow on your streaming platforms. And follow me on social media at Travis.Fuentes. Ike, you want to plug in your stuff, your socials?
Sure, yeah. My Instagram is basically where I post everything. It's Ike.Everard on Instagram. Might as well follow Raised Rowdy too while you're at it.
There you go. Awesome, man. Ike, you got a song that you want to send us off with? Anything that you've been jamming or listening to lately?
I've been listening a lot to the new Jessie Murph album. I think she's great.
Nice.
Favorite song in there is probably Cold.
Cold.
Great.
All righty, guys. So we'll see you on the next one. Take care.